Hey everybody, welcome to the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast. My name is Robert Reams, the host and the producer of the show, and as always, I'm here to inform and inspire you, to educate you, and to motivate you so that you can take this information, put it to work in your lives, share it with your loved ones and your families. I've come a long way to have this opportunity to sit in front of you today. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome to this version of the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast. And let me tell you, thanks be and glory be to God that I'm sitting here today. What I want to talk about today is the last couple 2.5 weeks or so. Now, by the time this thing airs, I don't know when I'm going to air this, if I'm going to drop it right away or if I'm going to wait a week or so. But I went through a bit of, let's say, a health event. Let's call it that for now. And you're going to see how this unfolds because I've told this story to people close to me, people that I work with. I've probably told this story now about 30 times. And I actually told it finally to my first group yesterday. And today I want to lay it out in an RR Live Wellness Unfiltered episode so that now when people ask me, Rob, what happened to you, man? What happened? I can just say, now go to the podcast and you get the whole story. So here it is. About 2 weeks ago and 3 days from today, it was a Monday, normal Monday for me. Normal Monday for me, I trained 11 people. What was maybe a little out of the ordinary is I went and did full grocery shopping after that. I usually on a Monday or a Wednesday, which are my busiest days, I'll just kind of train and that's it. That's all I do. But I had to go to the grocery because, of course, to secure my environment, I was out of food. And I needed my food. So I went to Kroger's in Franklin. I loaded up my car. I took everything upstairs. I put it away. And then I went to work, actually, because this was just a couple days after the last time I was here at Trent's Spread the Positive studio. I had taped the show with David Smith, which many of you have seen probably already. It's doing really well, and it should do really well because, as you can see, David is one of the more courageous dudes I've ever met. And I've been able to share a lot of this event in my last couple weeks of my life with him. And, you know, he's somebody that can truly relate. As I think everybody can, as you're going to see. But anyway, I clipped off the promo shots. I do these kind of, 50-second to 70-second clips, and I put them on my Instagram. I send them to my team, and I put them on the Instagram and I put them on Facebook just to promo the show and tell you what the next episode's all about. So I clipped those off, and that's kind of time intensive because I got to watch the show. I got to look and I'm like, ooh, that's a good one. Ooh, that one might work. And so then I have to go back and I got to kind of time code it. And then I send it to my team and they just clip it off. So it was a long day. I worked till about 9:20 p.m. And I normally eat late. I've always had my evening meal is what I've always looked at as my reward at the end of the day. And it's really late. And I got to get up at 4 a.m. the next morning, which is Tuesday. And so what was really a little bit odd, I didn't think too much of it at that very time, but I was not hungry. Worked this full day, blasting all day. Get ready to wind down, get ready for a good night's sleep, and I wasn't hungry at all. So my wife had a little bit of this lentil soup on the stove, and I took about 7 spoonfuls just to thinking man, I got to get up at 4 a.m. I've had a really, really busy day. I gotta replenish. I gotta nourish. And about 15 to 20 minutes later, I started to get this hot, cold thing going on, like flu, really intense. First, it was hot. I put my sweatshirt on and I put my hoodie on. And by the way, I don't sleep in these, by the way. I actually had to put it on because it was the end of my evening. And I put that on. And then, after this hot flash, I then got really cold. So like flu symptoms, something going on. Was the lentil soup okay? Was something I ate during the day? What was going on? Was something really coming on to me really fast? And I don't really get sick. So these kind of feelings are really abnormal for me. I'm not used to them. There was anybody to get used to them, but I'm really not used to them. And what was really capping all this off was this just sheer, like intense knifing, like I had a machete in my gut type of pain. I mean, it was wrenching. It was like a fire, and it was like a fire with like a knife, like a hot sword. And I could barely get in and out of the bed. So I got this flu symptoms going on. I got this knifing, wrenching pain in my gut. And I'm like, wow, something's really not right here. And I immediately went back to my memory of 1988, which was up until now, the only time I've ever spent the night in a hospital. In 1988, I thought I had appendicitis. We rushed down to the North Hollywood Medical Center, which a couple of years after actually became the set for the show Scrubs, if you remember that. But at the time, it was still the North Hollywood Medical Center. And we went in, and I actually spent the night observation. They x-rayed me. At 1988, they put me, I basically slept on this Formica table. It was just the oddest thing. Spent the night at the hospital, woke up in the morning. They found out I did not have an appendicitis. I actually had a colon blockage. And I'm not going to tell you what I ate before that. We'll leave that as another story, maybe. Yeah, we'll just leave that as another story. So that was my memory. So that pain, that knifing pain, was familiar, and I'm like, okay, this is not good. So about middle of the morning, about 3 a.m. Tuesday morning, I get up and I start texting people. Obviously, I'm not going to be getting up at 4 a.m. and training somebody at 6. Obviously, I'm not going to be handling clients that day. And I can count on this hand in my entire 40-year career how many times I've ever had to call in sick for any kind of training sessions. So it just doesn't happen. But it happened on this Tuesday, 2 weeks ago now, or 2 weeks and 3 days ago now, as I sit here today. Tuesday, August 12th, actually, is what it was. And so I get up, I sleep until about 8 o'clock, and I futz around a little bit, go into the computer, go into my office, and kind of relax a little bit. By this time, the flu symptoms had subsided, but the knifing pain was still there, more powerful than ever. So I went back and I took another about an hour and a half nap. I got up and I put myself in the car and I drove myself to the ER, to the Williamson County Medical Center in Franklin. Parked the car, I walked in, got registered, and I had to wait about an hour and a half, which is really good for ER and not really, they prioritize an ER. I'm not going to die here. At least I didn't think so at the time. And I was hoping that wasn't the case. So I waited about an hour and a half, which is a really good wait time for an ER. Very efficient place from moment one. Got in. They get me into the exam room. They start examining me. All kinds of stuff. They do everything. In ER, they really, really check you out. They knew my symptoms, and they really were very, very thorough. And they sent me down for a CAT scan of my midsection. And they sent me down to this CAT scan, which was very far away, by the way. I'm on this gurney thing, and I'm rolling all the way down there. It's like it seemed like it was like 2 miles. This place is massive. I come back from the CAT scan, and the emergency surgeon is right by my bed. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I will tell you that these people are all angels. This emergency surgeon was angel number 1. That's what I'm gonna refer to these folks as, because I did not get any permission to give these folks names, so I'm not going to do it. But I will just tell you that they are now angels in my life. Very, very fortunate that I went in there on that day. And he proceeds to tell me, he's about 5 feet away, looks me directly in the eye, and he says, "You're going in for emergency surgery right now. I'm available. You have appendicitis. I don't want you to burst. We're going to get this done." And so I guess kind of worst case scenario, or kind of what I really thought this was, turned out to be that's what it is: appendicitis, emergency surgery. So the crew comes in, these great nurses, and they suit me up, the gown, the whole thing. The anesthesiologist comes in, does his thing, and that's the last thing I remember. This is the middle of the afternoon. I go down to surgery. And by the way, I'm out. Again, by the way, I have no idea what's going on. And I go in for the surgery, and my wife gets a call about 5:25 p.m. and gets a call from the nurse, surgery's going well. Or gets a text, some sort of a text thing that says the surgery is going well. And then about an hour later, or about 45 minutes later, she gets a call actually from the surgeon, Angel 1, remember. And Angel number 1 gets my wife on the phone, and my wife's driving down Mac Hatcher in Franklin, getting ready to go home and maybe get some stuff and come back and see me, thinking like, well, this might be outpatient surgery, or at worst, I'm going to go pick me up the next day. He proceeds to tell her that the surgery went really, really well. Doctor says the surgery went really, really well, but we've had to take your husband upstairs to the ICU because that's where the ventilators are. And of course, my wife goes a little bonkers at that point, like, WTF, what's going on here? And he told her what happened. And so she gathered my daughter, Audrey, and they came over, and they had to watch this. They got into the room. There I was in the ICU, the intensive care unit of Williamson County Medical Center, on a breathing tube, on a ventilator, strapped down like a psych patient, sedated out of my mind. Not the visual that they wanted to see. Not the visual that anybody wanted to see. What they do is they give you a paralytic drug. It's a paralytic drug. And the paralytic drug during a surgery, like an appendectomy, it paralyzes your muscles and it paralyzes your breathing. Paralyzes you. You're paralyzed. But the objective is to paralyze you for the surgery so they can go in, do their thing, and when the surgery is complete, you come out of it. Or they give you something to bring you out of this paralysis, this anesthesia. This particular one was called acetylcholine. At the point that I needed to come out of this, for what they thought at the time, and this is really unclear which it was, if it was this or what I'm going to tell you towards the end, they said I didn't have the enzyme to bring me out of the anesthesia. So I remained in paralysis. And I remained in paralysis for about 6.5 hours. My wife and my daughter had to watch this. And when you're in the ICU, if you've ever had any of your people or your family in the ICU, because I have not been in the ICU. Mind you, 1988 was the only time I'd ever even spent the night at the hospital, aside when I was born. They take really good care of you. And these people, again, were all angels. Well, I guess about 9:30 or so, or a little bit after, I did come out of it. And my wife had to watch this. My kid had to watch this. And the anesthesiologist stayed through all this and said, look, I promise you he's going to come out of it. I promise you he's going to come out of it. I promise you he's going to come out of it. And my wife's like, well, how do you know? How do you know? I mean, you don't know. Well, as always in my life, the good Lord was watching over me. And I did come out of it. Started to move my extremities, started to move my legs, started to move my knees up and down, started to move my arms, started to respond to the muscle stim on my fingers, and I started to breathe. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. I'm still out of it, by the way. I have no idea what's going on. So the evening winds down and everybody leaves, and I am there in the ICU. And the first thing that I remember, I look up at the clock and it's 2:55 a.m. It's 5 minutes till 3 a.m. Now Wednesday morning. Kind of look, I'm kind of out of it, kind of out of it. I'm way out of it, by the way. I look up again and it's 3:10 a.m. I looked at my side and I see kind of the lights in the hallway, and I hear little faint voices, and I hear the telemetry. They've got me hooked up like crazy. The beeps, I'm blood pressure monitored constantly, heart rate, oxygen, everything, IVs. I am wired up. And I'm thinking, wow, is this it? Is this it? Is this maybe what the pearly gates look like? I don't know. This is the kind of stuff that starts going through your mind as you start to wake up. It's like you're on this anesthesia. You're clear, but you're foggy. You're foggy, but you're clear. And it's hard for me to describe. And every time I've told it, I've tried to close my eyes and take myself back into that moment when I first started to come to. And I'm like, oh, I've got this whatever down my throat. I'm strapped down. I can't move. I'm trying to breathe. I could barely breathe. I'm trying to belch. And about every fourth time, I get this little thing out. And it's overwhelming, but yet under sedation, it's just what it is. And when I started to, feel the fact that I was struggling breathing, and I was struggling to belch, and I was trying to move my extremities, I was alive. I knew I was alive. I knew I was still here on planet Earth. I knew I was still with everybody. So I did go back to sleep, I think. And the morning comes around, early morning, and everybody's in my room. Nurses start coming in. Everybody starts coming in. Everybody starts rolling around. The buzz of the ICU and the care you get once again is amazing. And the respiratory therapist, the reason they didn't take the tube out the night before, because the respiratory therapist has to take the tube out. And they didn't have the staff to do that in ICU that late at night. They didn't have the staff to take out that breathing tube that late at night. So the morning came around, that's the first thing that happened. Now they strap you down because they don't want you to rip that out. People panic and they try to rip these things out. So I couldn't rip it out, but the respiratory therapist, she could rip it out, and she did. Bam. And I'm off a lot of the anesthesia by this point. I'm like kind of with it now. She rips that thing out like barbed wire coming out of my throat, my entire throat. Boy, was I up now. And I could not talk for an hour. The reason they don't want you to rip those out is because you could damage your vocal cords forever. So I couldn't talk for almost an hour, and that was a little scary. I'm trying to talk and I can't. There's nothing there. I get my voice back, and then some of the drama starts to clear. Breathing tubes out. Rob's good. He's moving his extremities. He's breathing. He came out of this. I came out of that. Paralyzed for 6.5 hours. I came out of it. So now I'm thinking, okay, fast track to get me home, right? Let's go home. I want to go home. I'm done. Well, not so fast. Angel number 2, the head ICU doctor, he starts to look at all my blood work, all the testing, all the labs that I did. And I did virtually every lab that there is known. When you're in ICU, they do everything on you. They have everything on me. And my blood pressure is still like 80/40. I'm still super sedated. And so I'm thinking, well, at some point, they're going to try to get me out of here. I mean, it's done. Surgery went well, which I was again informed of, which was great. Appendectomy, you'll see, was just God walking me into the ER the day before, literally escorting me in there. It's exactly what it was. It was divine intervention at the very highest level, because I would have never gone. Me? ER? Well, when I feel like I got a fire-eating sword in my gut, I'm going to go. And that took me in there. Well, this doctor, once again, I'm not going to mention his name, but Angel 2, starts looking at my stuff and he says, something's not right here. Something's not right. There's more to this than just an appendectomy. And the fact that this guy, and they're looking at me like, obviously I'm, metabolically healthy. I'm fit. I have virtually no medical history. What happened? What's with this guy? And why is everything showing it like it is right now? Now, mind you, I'd had my physical with my regular doctor 3 weeks before. And I always tell everybody, check underneath the hood. You have got to check underneath the hood. You can look great and be awesome and even have great energy on the outside, but you could be a hot mess on the inside. You have got to check underneath the hood. And I do that every year, very thoroughly. And 3 weeks before, I had some anemia going on, kind of free fall over the year. If you look at your numbers on your physical, I had 16 hemoglobin a year ago. I had some more blood work done for a life insurance policy in April. I dipped down to 13. And by the time this was taken, which was the beginning this was July when I'd had my physical with my regular doc, I was at 9. So I was in kind of a anemic free fall. That was a symptom. And my doctor and I talked about it, and I was going to go put the work in and investigate and see what that was about. As a matter of fact, the day that I went in on that Tuesday is the day I had an appointment to go to Quest to recheck that portion of my blood to see if it was a mistake, because sometimes the lab makes a mistake. Well, I obviously didn't make it to that blood work appointment, but I made it to the other ones, because I was there. So anyway, he looks at all this stuff. Something's not right. I don't know what it is, but this is beyond my scope, but I know something's not right. This is the head ICU doctor. Very smart guy, very intuitive guy, very, very caring guy, obviously. And so he brings in Angel 3, endocrinologist. Again, I'm not going to say her name, but a very prominent endocrinologist that's been in medicine for 44 years. Barely takes any patients now. Lectures, does a lot of things that in the medical field. She is a game changer. She to say that she would be what you would call an influencer these days. She's a powerhouse. She's a leader. And he had access to her that particular week. Calls her up. Starts breaking down who I am, what's going on, labs, what happened, the whole thing. Paralyzed for 6.5 hours, comes out of it. But here's what's going on. She says, I want the case. So what I thought was already a lot of labs, they really went into lab mode. I mean, they wheeled at one point, they wheeled in a cart with a vial on ice. Vial had to be iced. They take the blood, they put the vial back on ice. I got in line for an emergency MRI of my brain, which I finally got to. This is Wednesday night now, 9:30 p.m. I got in. More wonderful people. They were checking for tumors. They were checking my pituitary gland, which is my master gland in my brain. And so they wheel me back. Drama clears for now. I go to sleep. They'd put me down to step down ICU at that point, down the hall, because I was off the ventilator. So the next morning, about 9:45 a.m., Angel 3 comes into my room with her assistant. Walks all the way around, sits down on my left. Now, by this time, once the smoke had cleared and I'd become conscious, I started thinking about the fact that all I've worked for, everything up to this point, my career, what I do, everything that I've had the opportunity to do and all the people that I've helped, here I sit in the ICU. Me. Maybe it's all over. Maybe I got to take another direction. But I wasn't ready for it. There was no way I was ready for that. But boy, did I fear it. And so when Angel 3 sat down and started to explain to what was going on with me, she said, you have a very rare condition. Condition is called hypopituitarism. Hypo meaning low. Pituitary gland, which is your master gland in your brain that runs your hormones. It is your master switch for your hormones. If you look at all your hormones as electric, a big city of electric, the lever at the top is your pituitary gland. And my lever was basically shut down. So what happened with the paralysis and me unable to come out of the succinylcholine, it might have been that enzyme that I lacked. But the big thing is I had no cortisol. You've heard me talk about stress hormones before. The main stress hormone, cortisol. You know, you go like there's 4 stages of burnout in cortisol. High cortisol, higher cortisol, stage 3, higher cortisol, stage 4, you have no cortisol. You are completely flatlined. You're done. Adrenal burnout. Mine was not adrenal burnout. This condition, which is an autoimmune condition, and she proceeded to tell me that these conditions, this particular conditions and other autoimmune conditions like it, are spiking because of COVID. Now, years later, I had COVID of January in 2020. I had Christmas of 2020, I had COVID. I did have it. Didn't hit me very hard. I basically took extra naps and I was fine. But I did have it. That combined with my genetic predisposition for autoimmune issues from both sides of my family, perfect storm for this to happen. So, now I guess it's really over. And she said, no, quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. You're probably going to feel better than you have in the last 10 to 15 years. You're going to be on a protocol. And you'll be on it the rest of your life because your condition is irreversible. Your pituitary gland will never function the same again. You'll be on a protocol that I have Navy SEALs on. I have Iraq war vets on. I have people that have had major PTSD. You'll be on this protocol and you'll have to stick with it and you have to listen to what I tell you. Doc, I'm listening. I'm all ears. I'm here for you. You're here for me. And she explains what was going on. We started to talk about all the stuff that I do. And the reason, I mean, she didn't know who I was or what level I do this, but she knew, look, here's a guy that's 65 years old, almost 66. He pulled himself out of this. And it confirmed everything I've ever done in my life, especially since I became a professional. And I can thank the fat kid, Bob Reams from Indiana too, because that's what motivated me to get into the field that I'm in and live the life that I've lived. And we started talking about specifics all the way down to like HIIT training. I mean, this woman knows her shit. And here I was, blessed with these three angels right in a row. Third one being somebody that's now going to save my life. And the second one of which went into investigative mode to even take a chance and take a shot and take a look, say something's not right here, and bring in this team. Because they could have just easily sent me home. I would have gone into burnout, and who knows when or how long I would have lasted, or something else would, where some other dam would have broken. Much worse. And she said these two things. She said that, and this is kind of the kicker, everything you've done, everything you are, all the work you've done, what you teach, the shape that you've kept your physical and your mental body in, saved your life. Because anybody else, most people, would have just quietly fallen asleep and not woken up. And I went, wow. I'm speechless at this point, and I'm emotional, and I'm an emotional wreck anyway during this, leading up to it and everything. And I started to just praise God, praise her, praise this team, praise everybody, praise this day. And turns out that what I thought was over is now taken on a whole new dimension. Because my work, everything I've done saved my own life. Or I wouldn't be here today to sit here at Spread the Positive Studios to talk about it or do anything else. So, the message is here is that you have got to do the work. Self-care. Everything that I've talked about on this podcast, review it. Everything. Review my app. Review this book. Everything in here saved my life. And the thing is, many of you out there, you listen to me. You hear me talk. You hear me teach. The people that I've worked with, the thousands of pounds and thousands of inches that have been lost under my guidance, the health that has been optimized by the people that I work with, people I will never know because I've been able to be in the position to influence and motivate people and inspire people that I will never know them. But I appreciate every single one of you. But you got to do the work, and you've got to start now. Because look, these autoimmune issues and other health issues are on the rise. We're going to be looking at this for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Our air, our food, COVID, whatever's going on out there. When your body, your mind, and your spirit has to go into battle, you better be ready. And this work gets you ready. For we talk about a lot of stuff, but this takes it to a whole new dimension. And like I said, all of you listening to me, many of you are probably doing the work, but you've got parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, sons, daughters, cousins, family members, people you care about in your community that may not be doing the work. You need to shake them up and get them to do the work. Gift them this. It's all in there. It's a life manual to survive basically what I've survived and everything else I've done and everything else that I've been able to help people with. Do the work. Be ready for battle. May or may not happen. But the chances are, when the chips fall, and they probably will at some point, that's just life, you'll be ready if you do the work. If you don't do the work, you just won't be as ready. And you'll have to roll the dice. But I want to thank my family first. They had to endure that visual of me paralyzed, not knowing what's going to happen. I want to thank this team of doctors, those 3 angels, like I mentioned before, everybody at Williamson County Medical Center that took care of me. Nurses are the unsung heroes of medicine. Let me just tell you. They are the unsung heroes of medicine because they are on the ground floor. Like I talk about with the work I do, they are in the trenches. I want to thank everybody. And who I want to thank the most, of course, the good Lord, the man upstairs. Because obviously there's a bigger plan for me. And the bigger plan for me gives you the opportunity to learn and be inspired and be motivated for a bigger plan for you. And as I close my on-the-fly videos that you see me do on my socials, that's the message, everybody. God bless. Hey, everybody, thanks again for tuning in to the RR Live Wellness Unfiltered podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the show. And don't forget the Revive and Sustain Wellness app. Go to www.reviveandsustain.com and download the app. 42 years of my experience at your fingertips. Till next time, everybody, in great health.